Hey, what up? It's your favorite GM, Trey B of the Charlotte Hornets. This podcast has been a long time coming. I actually have another podcast that I did with LJ that I need to get posted, but due to some changes that I'm making with the team, I needed to go ahead and put this one together ASAP. As some of you have already seen, we got a trade on the site right now. Kevin Love for KP and a handful of seconds and some GM points. I believe it's 3 second rounders, 25 GM points, something of that nature. And Kristaps Porzingis is a player I actually been looking at for quite some time. He was one of those players that I kind of wanted to be able to trade for, but couldn't get him for one reason or another. But so as a team, the Hornets are really excited to be able to bring KP on board, see what he can do. He's been pretty healthy for the most part this season, so we're looking forward to seeing what he can do. And hopefully be a part of turning the team season around. We're in the middle of probably one of the worst seasons that I've experienced as a GM, whether in this league or in the NL for that matter. Essentially, nothing has worked the way that I had planned, and so basically nothing worked the way I'm sorry, I got people DMing me right now. Essentially, nothing worked the way that I planned. The whole thing really started back in the off season when I was trying to plan how to go about the off season. I also had a lot of IRL and real life stuff going on at the same time, and I knew that there was going to be an issue with retaining McGee as a center or acquiring a replacement. And what I did is I picked up Lopez with the idea that if nothing else, Lopez would provide incredible post defense, if not the actual rebounding that I was used to. But also, he wasn't really much of a rim runner, but because he could shoot the three and shoot mid-range, he would be available as a floor spacer and allow for my guards to be able to get into the paint and score high percentage buckets and possibly even and ones for the most part. With that being said, we are the top team in the league in free throw percentage, thanks to that chart posted by Rootsy a couple of weeks ago. It's pretty amazing work, by the way, there, Rootsy. That data is invaluable. People don't understand or don't talk enough about the data that's available to us in this league. And a lot of times when the GMs are stuck and not sure what to do as far as what changes to make to their team, they forget to look at that data. They forget to look at those numbers. And those numbers, even more than in the NBA, the analytics of the numbers matter more to us than they do in the NBA, which kind of sounds crazy, but it does, it matters, simply because we're affected by the game engine's need to balance out the numbers. And so those numbers matter to us pretty much every time. Every time there's a box score, those numbers matter. And cumulatively, you kind of get to see where your team's weaknesses are. And from there, you kind of want to just pretty much fill in those gaps and cover those weaknesses and be able to amplify your strengths. And one of the areas that we were just dying, we were dying scoring in the paint, and we were having trouble rebounding. Defense was okay, but if you can't take advantage of extra possessions or get extra possessions, the defense, that doesn't matter for the most part. So I made a couple of deals to try and figure out how to shore up the rebounding. The rebounding was something that just couldn't be sustained. We were terrible on the glass. And not only that, a lot of times Luka was their best rebounder on the team. And that just makes the team play different. It makes the team play different on defense. It makes the team play different on offense. And I just didn't like that he was the best rebounder on the team, which facilitated a lot of these trades for Vucevic and eventually Kevin Love, which should have made us a tougher team to beat. I mean, like, both of those guys are skilled offensive players inside the post as well as on the perimeter. They both were 90 rated in defensive rebounding, with Luka rated at 87 in defensive rebounding. We should have been able to dominate the glass for the most part, but it just didn't happen. We also had some weird injuries in the process. I traded CP3, and the whole dynamic of inserting Fred VanVleet as CP3's replacement, it wasn't as efficient. It wasn't as efficient as with having CP3 and a big. So essentially with CP3 and Luka at 2 point guards that can pick and roll the teams to death, which is basically what we did last year. I didn't even run plays. Like last year, I ran plays like at 70, 75. I just let them jokers run pick and rolls all day long. And that's basically what they did. Now with a different team, different setup, it wasn't really as effective, and I was just really kind of struggling to get that situated. And the losses continued to pile up. And we made that trade for Devin because we needed a quote-unquote glitch rebounding player. And essentially why those guys are so effective, these washed-up centers, like Dwight Howard and Andre Drummond and McGee and stuff like that. These guys, basically what's going on is the way the 2K programmers set their rebound ratings is off of the raw analytics. Primarily the rebound percentage on court, meaning on court rebound percentage. So if this player gets X amount of percentage of the rebounds when he's on the floor, if the percentage is high, then they give this guy, a 90 rebound, whether it's for defensive or offensive, and it's just it doesn't make any sense. And what happens is you get a guy that's rated at 75, but he's got 88 offensive rebound, like a 95 defensive rebound, but he plays 10 minutes a game in the NBA. But because he gets 3 rebounds within that 10 minutes, he's got a ridiculous rebound rating. So now what we got guys that, because the way the game engine works is it tries to balance out the scoring. So shots that should go in sometimes don't go in, and that gives that overrated big an extra rebound. So, and what has happened is it's made those guys more valuable than the guards. So, but then we had a great week. That first week, I think we went 3-1 or something like that. It was fantastic. The team scored 113 points a game. I thought that we were onto something. Then he got waived by the Heat, and we went like a week or so without him, and the losses started piling up again. And when the losses started piling up again, I was like, okay, well, we got to figure something out. In the meantime, man, you guys were circling. I probably got a Luka Dončić offer every week. I'm pretty sure that I've gotten 7 or 8 trade offers for Luka. I normally have trade offers, generally speaking, they're not even real offers. They're normally just inquiries where people inquire, but these are just straight offers. And I got a lot of good offers for him, but the way that I felt is that he's 23 years old. He's the second highest rated player in the game. And there was no reason to trade him. If the season went bad, then I could scrap the roster and then just rebuild around him for the next 3 to 4 years. I mean, he's just too good, too young for me to even really consider trading him seriously. And so I would talk to you guys that, that make the offers, and some of them were pretty good. Some of them were, but some of them were really, really good. I mean, I got some that were really good, but at the same time, it just didn't feel like I needed to make that particular move because, like I say, he was too good, too young. It just didn't make any sense. Plus, there was really, from my point of view, there was really no one team that could give me his value. And I've talked to a couple of you guys, and basically I would say things like, hey, he's just another player. It's like having your sister be the prom queen. It's like everyone is saying how great she is, but to you, she's just your sister. So in a lot of ways, to me, Luka was just another guy that was on my team. He happened to be the best guy, but the amount of offers that were coming in, the size of the offers that were coming in, I mean, I was getting like lots of draft picks, elite players. I mean, it's players all rated, players rated over 90. I think the lowest rated elite player was a 91, with the highest rated elite player being a 97. So it really got, and it was always that player plus, other stuff that would be going on. Actually, the lowest rated player was an 87, but that player was coming with a really good package. It was like I almost pulled the trigger on that one, simply because with the way the team was playing, I was thinking like, one, I was sick of the offers, which is no knock on you guys, but I was sick of the offers, and I didn't really like the way that Luka was playing on the court. And I wasn't sure if it was the game engine or if it was the way it had the roster built. But I was seeing things on the court in games that make me literally do a facepalm. Just like, what the hell is going on? And that created a lot of frustration for me. And I wasn't really sure how things were going to work. So the last 3 weeks, the first week of the 3 weeks, Dedmon was not available. The second week, I was missing somebody. I can't remember who it was, but we went 0-4 that first week without Dedmon. And then the next week, we were 0-4 again, and he was back, and the team just didn't play well at all. And I think Luka was out that week. We were 0-4. And I was just like, man, I don't know. So I promised myself I would not test a lot of games. I would just put the thing together and roll the ball out there, and whatever happens, happens. So when we get to last week, which is the week that we just finished, week 14, I'm thinking, man, I got to test this shit. I got to figure out how this is going to work, because if I have another 0-4 week, I don't know. I'm like, I'd be at a loss for words. During the course of that week, I got to talking to Nels about a trade that was wanna allow the team to get a little bit younger. I have been able to get a few different offers for Vucevic, and on 2K paper, Vucevic and Christian Wood are pretty similar players. They're made off the same player template, but Christian Wood is like 5 years younger than Vucevic, but also has a less stable contract situation. Even though they're both going to be free agents, Wood's situation is a little bit less stable. But what I was trying to do is I was trying to use the leverage of that trade to somehow upgrade the roster in a particular kind of way. And there were a few different players that were being looked at. I was trying to figure out how to get Kyrie Irving. I was trying to figure out how to get Terry Rozier. I was trying to figure out how to get Chris Middleton. I was trying to figure out a way to upgrade, use this trade to upgrade the roster some kind of way. But me and Nels worked on that trade for maybe almost 2 weeks, just trying to figure out how to get other stuff in so I can upgrade the roster. I don't even know what his motivations were, but I figured if I can upgrade one of my players, I can make the roster look more versatile and possibly start to turn things around, because there's really no time left. And I'm not totally obsessed with winning, but I'm obsessed with at least appearing competitive, and the team just doesn't appear competitive. So we get into week 14. I'm doing this deal, but the team, Malcolm hasn't played. As of right now, Malcolm hasn't played a game for us, because I ended up with Malcolm Brogdon out of nowhere. And I didn't have a spot for Malcolm Brogdon. He's a point guard, and I got 4 point guards already. I got Mike Conley, Fred VanVleet, Luka Dončić, quote unquote. I got Austin Rivers, if you count him. I mean, I already had 3 starting point guards plus a halfway decent bench guy. So I really didn't need another point guard. But he was rated high enough that maybe I can play him as a shooting guard, have Luka play small forward, and maybe I can get somewhere going with this. But then the team lost 3 games straight. We won the first game, but then we lost 3 games. Literal headache. I was like, what the hell am I doing this for if the team is not going to perform? I can't even use Malcolm Brogdon. I like, on that sense, I was like, I can't even use him if what's on the court right now is not performing. So I said, okay, I'm not going to worry about it. I'll go into week 15 after the break, and we'll see what happens. I'll probably just do Fred VanVleet, Malcolm Brogdon, Luka Dončić, Christian Wood at power forward, and then I would put Letterman at center. And I said I was going to start testing that, but I didn't actually start testing it. I was just kind of like, I was kind of over it for the time being. And right on cue, whenever I lose a couple games, I get a couple of inquiries about trading Luka, and I got a message from Leroy that kind of made sense. So I was like, you know what? Let's flesh this out. Let's talk about this. So we talked about it for a little bit, and I think that I can do this deal. That was what I was thinking. I was thinking, okay, well, I think I can do this deal. You know, and essentially it would have boiled down to is KP and John Morant plus draft assets and one other player for Luka. 2 things. One, John Morant cannot be traded right now. He can't be traded right now because his contract extended, and in order to trade him, according to our rules, according to NBA rules, he has to be traded for the average of his new salary or some crazy nonsense like that. And since in our league we can't make that change, we can't average out the salary and then trade him. We have to wait till the site flips to do it. So I got to thinking, I was like, you know what? I can do this deal and rent Luka for the rest of the season and probably make this team pretty competitive, probably turn the season around and still go through with the trade at the end of the season, bring in John Morant, and it's still business as usual. But KP wasn't enough by himself. Simply like, I just didn't see another way to it. I said, I can do this deal, but I need another player. And like I said before earlier in the video, I just didn't think that one team could give me everything that I needed. It had to be a multiple team deal. So what I wanted was another elite player and 2 players that were either all-stars or starters plus stuff. And I was trying to figure that out. And just what happened is I had a question about Malcolm Brogdon's contract, and I mentioned it to Ben. Ben gave me the details on the contract, but then he says, hey, you know, he has no idea I'm doing this Luka deal. He doesn't know that me and, you know, Leroy had talked about Luka for a job. So I'm like, you know what, hey, he said, hey, you know, he gives me the answer to my question, but it's like, yeah, well, I got Draymond if you want to trade Malcolm for him. Okay, there we go. Oh shit. Okay, that's the deal that I need right there. If I can bring in Draymond Green and still rent Luka for the rest of the season with KP, Fred VanVleet, and Christian Wood, that's a whole new team. And even at the end of the season, swapping Luka for Ja, this makes no difference at this stage. So me and Leroy continue to flesh out that deal. Well, I can work on the deal with Ben for Draymond, and Ben was busy, so I couldn't pin him down the way that I wanted to. He had no idea how bad I wanted to go ahead and do this deal. So, because to me, that would allow me to sleep at night as far as trading Luka or committing to trade Luka, since I can't actually trade, since I can't do the whole deal as of right now. At the same time, we got all this drama going on with Ja Morant. You know, he's at the club, he's flashing this little gun, and now the whole NBA world is in the uproar. And I have a lot of comments on that. And essentially, the issue with Ja Morant is a black guy issue, really. It's a black guy issue, and nobody, if you're not a black person, you probably don't understand it. But Ja Morant really believes that he needs to prove his street cred. And so he's doing things that he thinks will impress his constituents. And his constituents is not even a word that we use like in the hood or the street or whatever, but he's doing things that he thinks he needs to do to prove himself to them. And that whole thing with the gun, that was a dare. Somebody told him, I mean, I have no proof of that, but because I know just from being in that, being what we call being about that life, someone's like, yeah, dude, I bet you won't flash a gun on your IG story, you know, and, you know, how dare you dare me? I'm Ja Morant, you know, so he gets on his IG story and he flashes this gun. And you can tell there was something, like for me, just knowing body language and knowing how people act in certain situations. He flashes this little gun, which might be a 380, I don't know. I'm not a gun person, so I don't know, but when I saw it, it looked like the kind of gun that a woman would have in her purse. You know, just like a little small thing. And when you're about that, what we call about that life, when you're about that life, that's not the kind of gun you carry. So that wasn't even his gun, it was somebody else's gun. And then he's holding it like he's afraid to hold it. You know, he's laughing and doing his thing. He's basically in his turned up mode. And he, you know, goes up and then he puts it down. That wasn't there, because when you are quote unquote about that life and you want to flash a gun, you're gonna hold it up, you're gonna wave it, you know, and it's most likely gonna be something of a much larger caliber, simply because in that arena, in that circle, being able to do that represents a certain amount of power, represents a certain amount of street credibility. And so he did it as a dare, and now everything is turned upside down. And what that boils down to is he doesn't understand that he doesn't need to impress anyone. People around him need to be trying to impress him. and not in no street cred way either, just like in a different kind of way. I mentioned in our chat that his situation reminds me a lot of Tupac. Tupac was probably one of the most gifted rappers, gifted speakers ever, to grace the rap industry. But he was always trying to prove himself to idiots. And that's really what Ja Morant's doing right now, trying to prove himself to idiots. And at the end of the day, when his career is over and the money's all gone, everybody else is going to be gone too. So he needs to really be more focused on carrying himself a particular kind of way. But anyway, aside from that, all this crap is going on with Ja Morant. And I'm thinking, do I really want to do this trade? Because the precedent for any type of gun thing in the NBA is many games suspension. Many games. So I anticipate that he'll be suspended, but I don't know. I don't know. Gilbert Arenas was suspended for like 50 games. The other guy, I can't remember, Javaris Brighton, whatever his name is, I think he got like 35 or 40 or something like that. And it's different than catching a gun charge. I think Malik Beasley caught a gun charge last season while he was still with, or the season before while he was still with the Timberwolves. And I can't remember what he got for that, but he ended up getting suspended like a few days for that. I know the police are investigating Ja's situation, but I don't think that any charges are going to be brought. What we're looking at, as far as the NBA is concerned, is code of conduct. And code of conduct right now is a dude, you cannot be on your Instagram flashing guns. This is the NBA. We a family-friendly business. That's just, it's a no. It's a no. So right now, the Grizzlies, NBA Grizzlies, are missing Clark. Clark's out, gonna be out for the season or whatever. So if the NBA is gonna suspend Ja Morant, that's the end of the Grizzlies season, because they can't be out two core players and expect to be able to compete. So I'm sure that's a negotiation. That's something that they're talking about. That's something the team is talking about, and something that, the league is talking about. It's like, look, you got to set an example here. We can't let him just be flashing. It's just completely ridiculous. It's uncalled for. So, if it comes out and he gives an apology in his own words and not that generic lawyer statement that was released a few days ago, and agrees to go to some type of counseling or whatever, which I really don't know how that would help, because the issue is not like that. The issue is understanding his own worth and what his value is to the league and to the target audience of the NBA. So that's not really a counseling thing. That's really kind of something else. Healing is buzzword that they use simply because it's a statement was written by a lawyer. Lawyers are going to do the most politically correct thing out there, and Johnny's out there in his own words and be like, look, what I did was stupid. I was out having a good time and used poor judgment. That's it. Boom. All of this, I let my teammates down like this, they ain't got nothing to do with that. Nothing. Okay. So anyway, all this is going on. I am stressing out over whether I should do this trade or not. And part of the reason is that, one, regardless of who I get in the trade, I'm not going to get value. Luka Dončić is this league's favorite player. This is a guy that everybody wants. He's 23, he's 97 rated overall player. He's the guy that everybody wants. He's the absolute favorite player. And so short of getting a whole team worth of players, there's no trade that's going to equal the value of what everyone thinks that should be put on the table for him. Anything less than what was traded for Giannis would be considered a failure for the most part. And because Giannis one of the only other players I had at one point decided if I was going to trade Luka before a player like Giannis or something like that. And full transparency, I think it was on the trade block or something like that early in the season. Leroy posted something in the trade block, and somebody made a comment about trading John Morant, and Leroy didn't answer. But he did answer, but he made a comment that the only way he would trade John Morant would be for Luka, right? And it was done with a gift. Okay? I can't remember the exact words, but it was done with a gift. So I saw that then, and I was like, early in the season, or before the season started, or something. It was a long time ago, relatively speaking. I said, shit, you know what? I think I could trade Luka for John Morant if that ever came up. But it was one of those things like where whoever mentions it first ends up having to give up more in that trade, regardless of what it is. So I never mentioned it. And actually, I talked to Leroy one time, and I was actually going to mention that. And I was like, oh, you know what? I saw the thing, your trade block that you mentioned you would trade John for Luka. But I decided not to do it at that point in time. So here we are. My season is going down the tank. I'm looking at the site now. My record is 21-37. I'm outside the play-in, behind Miami. And Miami's on a 4-game win streak. I'm on a 3-game losing streak. And then Detroit and Chicago are 9-10. So I felt like at this rate I didn't have anything to lose. Because of the way the trade has to be set up, I have nothing to lose. Simply being, I can't take Ja right now because of the way the contracts for the trades for extensions have to go down, and he's probably going to be out for a little while anyway, so it doesn't matter. But at the same time, it allows me to rebuild the starting lineup for the team and hopefully go on this deep run. And that was really kind of what I was thinking about, like over the last few days when me and Leroy were talking about this. We've been talking about it for a number of days now. I can't remember how many. But once I was able to lock in the other deal, I agreed to the deal with Leroy, and that's kind of where we're at right now. That's why the Kristaps Porzingis plus draft picks is on the site for Kevin Love, because it looks crazy. It looks like it makes no sense, but it's because it's the first part of that part of the deal. So basically, it's the end of an era in Charlotte. I gave myself, like when I joined this league, I gave myself 3 years to build a contender, and I was able to do that right away. And then this year's the 3rd year, and basically the whole thing is falling apart. The wheels are falling off of it. So this is kind of like an injection into what we think we can do with the team. You know, I actually even talked to my girlfriend about it, and she likes basketball, but that's another thing about basketball. And she just gave me what my mom calls the cat stare, which means she was attentive, but she had no idea what I was talking about. So I just decided that I had nothing to lose, that I could bring in, a few additional assets, bring in a player like KP from one team and bring in another player like Draymond from another team, and just kind of ride it out and see how it goes. Just so happens that I think Fred VanVleet is going to be out for week 15, which keeps me from trading Conley to reduce salary. That was my next move, was to reduce salary and trade Conley, but I can't really do that at this exact moment. But the trade deadline is coming, so that may change. So there it is. Essentially, I'll do a more detailed podcast later with graphs, production, and all the other stuff. But I had to get this up because it would just be easier to explain. I'd be able to put my thoughts behind it, and because if I do it in the chat, I'll probably would sound defensive, and so I didn't want to sound defensive. And I figured also I needed the points to do the next part of this deal, so I figured I'd go ahead and do the podcast anyway. So essentially, that's pretty much where we're at. Luka will finish the season as a Hornet, and when the site flips, he will become a New Orleans Pelican. And then Ja Morant will become a Charlotte Hornet. And I'm actually pretty excited about that. I will do a whole different podcast about some other reasons picking up Ja Morant, and as well as I'm really excited to see KP and Draymond Green on my team and kind of see how the whole thing works out. So thanks for checking out. Sorry, there's literally almost no production on this. I will create a better one next go around. The podcast with me and LJ will also get posted at the end of the week. It's about 2.5 weeks old, but I'm going to finish production on and get that posted, and hopefully we can do something on the regular to keep everybody entertained and have a little fun in the process. So yeah, end of an era in Charlotte. Luka's been fantastic. He's been the second best player I've had on my team in my career as a GM, with the best player being Kobe Bryant, and I also at one point had Dwayne Wade. So Luka was probably better than Wade, but not as good as Kobe Bryant. So that's it for now. Appreciate you guys taking a listen. I'm looking forward to the next podcast. Peace out.